This is what we're making today, folks. A beautiful, gorgeous lasagna. I have a mountain of ingredients over here, all right? Actually 18 in total. Now, if I were to count the ingredients in the sausage, that would probably add to it a little bit. Before we get started on this recipe, I want to mention this sausage can be substituted, or you can substitute ground beef for that, or ground chicken, whatever suits you. So go with what you like. I'm going to use sausage on this one. It's a good option. This is going to be a lasagna, a fantastic lasagna. So we're going to have homemade pasta, homemade sauce. We're going to do our own cheese mixture. We're going to do our own meat mixture. And I've got some fantastic goodies to put together here. Very tasty, worth your time. And folks, this is meat and cheese lasagna. Let me show you how it's done. Come on. Today we have a lot of different ingredients. So let me tell you what all we're going to be using. First off, we're going to be making some pasta. And I'm going to make 3 batches. That's the reason you see 3 bowls of flour here. And you'll see why in a little bit. It just makes it a little easier to do it this way. Unless you have a machine, you can mix all 3 at once. So this is going to be 3 cups of flour and 6 eggs. That's our pasta. There's going to be some salt in that also, a little olive oil. Also, we're going to be using Italian sausage. If you're not interested in the Italian sausage, you can use ground beef for this. You can use ground chicken or turkey, kind of whatever suits you, okay? Just get you some ground meat. For this one, I'm going to use the Italian sausage. It really spices this dish up. Our cheeses, I've got Parmesan, mozzarella, and back here we got some ricotta. In addition, we also have some spinach, and that's going to go in that cheese filling. Our sauce, fantastic. We're going to be using some tomato paste and wine. Also olive oil in the sauce. We're going to be using some salt and garlic and rosemary, oregano, basil, onion, carrot. This is a fantastic recipe. And when you see how it all goes together, you're going to think, why haven't I tried that before? Before I get into this recipe, let's first think about what we're going to be using to put this in, what we're going to bake it in. Folks, I'm using a big pan, all right? So if all you have is a 13 by 9, you're going to have a little bit of ingredient left over, or you're going to need to put a big sheet pan under what you're cooking because it will overflow. This is a 14 by 9.5 that's 2.5 inches deep. It's a good size lasagna pan, all right? So we're going to be using this. My next step, starting step, I'm going to crush this garlic, mix it with the olive oil, and we're going to cook that garlic in the olive oil. And that's just to extract the oils. I'll throw the garlic away, and then I'm going to mix in my tomato paste. After that, I'll mix in the spices, the herb. This right here I'm going to rub. I'm going to use my mortar and pestle and rub out these hard woody leaves of the rosemary, and that way they don't have that kind of a bad texture in the end product. So I like to just rub that. I'll add a little salt to it, and of course we're going to be making this with wine and water. So it's 2 cups of wine, a couple cups of water, and that is fabulous sauce. That's what we're doing there. So jump right in the middle of that. The pan I'm going to set aside for right now until it's time to line it. Folks, when it comes to making pasta, you know, you hear people tell you, you put your flour on the board and put the egg in the flour, and okay, come on, let's not make it that hard. Just pour your 2 eggs in the middle of each cup of flour, add a pinch of salt, add about a tablespoon of olive oil, and mix it together with a fork. The minute it comes together as a single ball, simply take that and put it inside of plastic wrap or a plastic bag or something simple that'll hold it and keep it away from air. You're going to let it rest for about 30 minutes at least, and that way the pasta is a lot easier to work once it's rested. If you don't rest it, it is very, very difficult to work. So go ahead and do that. Now I divide it into 3 sections like this, 1 cup each. You can do all 6 eggs with 3 cups of flour and make 1 batch. I think that's a little harder, so I just do it this way. Folks, if you are using ground hamburger, you can omit this step. But if you're going with sausage, you need to take the sausage links, these guys, and decase them. We have this casing on the outside, and I need what's on the inside, not the casing. I could chop it up, or I can just push it out of the casing and I'm done with that. Okay, so do that. Remove the casing from your sausage, chop it up if you need to. You shouldn't have to. And then we get right on to cooking it, okay? My meat sauce, simple enough. We have the decased sausage right here. I'm going to be placing that in this pan with a little olive oil. Doesn't take much, just a little bit, because there's a lot of fat in that meat. We're also going to be adding in the shredded carrot, the shredded onion. We're going to cook all of that together. Once the meat is fully cooked and the onion and carrot have started to cook down a little bit, we're going to add 2 cups of our red sauce that we've just made. 2 cups of that red sauce into the meat and cook it down together. Okay, and it only takes maybe 10 minutes of cooking after you get that red sauce in there. So cook the meat fully, add the red sauce, and then we have our meat sauce ready to go. Make sure, this is very important, on this meat sauce, make sure the meat is fully cooked. Sometimes the lasagna only gets up to a certain temperature in the middle. You don't need raw meat in your lasagna, so it must be cooked in advance. Well, I've hit that point. My meat is fully cooked. The vegetables and meat went in together, and so they're cooked also. All I have to do is add in some red sauce and cook it down just a little bit, and I'm done. Now the amount I'm going to put in this is going to be 2 cups of that marinara sauce, and then I'm going to thin out the remaining marinara sauce with about another cup of water. Folks, it's time for me to get my cheese filling made, and I'm going to be doing that simply by chopping up this spinach. I want to chop it real fine, and this is baby spinach like you'd use for a salad. Works great for this. I'm going to mix that into my ricotta cheese. I'm going to put in a pinch of salt, about a half a teaspoon, and we're good. That is your cheese filling right there. Nothing more. Keep it simple, okay? Oh, and for those who think that you need an egg in this, no, I don't need any chicken embryos in my cheese for my cheese to be what it is. Just let the ricotta be smooth and creamy, and it'll be delicious that way. Well, we are in the last of our processes. Now I'm going to roll out my pasta. This is as simple as taking that pasta that I've rested, and I'm going to knead it with a little bit of flour. When it goes from being really soft to being somewhat firm, then I will take it and simply roll it out into something of a rectangle. It doesn't have to be exact, just as long as it is slightly larger than the bottom of the pan you're cooking with. We'll use the pan as a template to cut out. Just lay it over the pasta, cut the sides, and suddenly you have a single sheet of pasta that fits your pan. Do it that way. Really cool, really easy. This is my favorite way to do pasta. There it is. Now, I told you this is going to fill this pan. Once it's cooked, it'd be about a 1/2 inch from the top, or a 1/4 inch, somewhere in there. And there it is, folks. That is a very, very full pan. This thing is ready for the oven. If you have any spots on the edge where you got sauce or anything, and you want it to come out pretty and clean, you might clean those little spots of sauce off. That way your pan doesn't get that burned onto it, and show that after the cook. Another thing I'll recommend, on your lower oven rack, put a baking sheet down there. This is important. It allows this, if it overflows, to not make a mess in your oven. Okay, so just do yourself that little precaution. Next, into the oven. That's 325 degrees. Before I go in there, I want to cover this. I want this covered for about 20 minutes during the first part of the cook, and then I take it off and we'll finish it up after that. Wonderful selection of ingredients that we've used today, and the quantities here starts with our meat. Now on this you can use 2 pounds to 2.5 pounds of sausage or ground beef or whatever you prefer, and that's going to be about 1,016 grams of ground meat. And to that we're going to be using some tomato paste. I've got 18 ounces or 510 grams of that tomato paste. Basil, right here we've got 1/4 cup of basil, and that's 4 grams. All right, and 1.5 teaspoons of the rosemary right here. That rosemary is 1 gram, and 1 gram of oregano, which is actually 3 teaspoons. Okay, so Sometimes they measure differently when you're weighing stuff out, as you see. The garlic, I'm using a half of an ounce, which is about 15 grams of garlic, and that's 4 cloves, or 4 to 6 usually is what you're looking at. To that also, we're going to be using 2 teaspoons or 8 to 10 milliliters of salt. Olive oil, quarter cup of olive oil back there, and also our wine. I've got 2 cups of wine, and basically you're looking at 450 milliliters of wine. On that, we've also got flour over here, and I'm using 3 cups of flour. It all comes up to about 390 grams of flour, 6 eggs, 5 ounces of onion, that's shredded onion here, and also we've got 3.5 ounces of the carrot, and that comes to 150 grams of the onion and 100 grams of carrot. My ricotta cheese right there, I've got a total of 3 pounds, or 1,359 grams, or 1.359 kilos. 1 pound of mozzarella cheese here. A pound of mozzarella, that's about 353 grams. 5 ounces of Parmesan. That Parmesan is about 140 grams. 4 ounces of spinach right back here, folks. 115 grams of spinach. For that, I like to use that baby spinach like you use in salads. And then the water. I've got about 2 cups of water that I'm going to be adding into that sauce. It's not out here, but you're going to need that water. All right, that's your recipe. Now let's take a look at this gorgeous, gorgeous lasagna. Oven is at 325 degrees, preheated. Let's get this in there. Oh, that is heavy. There we go. I have just pulled this from the oven. It's now cooling down. When you see nice brown patches here and there on it, and it's fully melted out, that's when it's ready, folks. This is lasagna, a gorgeous lasagna. And just got to let it cool down a bit and let it congeal, so it's A, it's not too hot, and B, when you spoon it up, it'll hold its shape a little bit better. And there we have it. That, ladies and gentlemen, that'd be lasagna right there. Yeah. Well, this is what we were going for right there. A fantastic little lasagna. It's got a beautiful cheese layer on bottom, that meat, the cheese over the top, the many layers of pasta. Everything's cooked up perfect. That's what we were going for. Oh yeah. You know, I've been sitting here critiquing this. The pasta's perfect. It's a perfect al dente. The cheese is nice and firm. The spinach is still a beautiful color. It hasn't wilted or turned anything odd. The whole thing stands up and is a beautiful, beautiful lasagna. The flavor on this pops, and everything on it is just the way it should be. If you're looking for a lasagna that's going to be a good one, something that'll really impress folks, try making this. See if I'm wrong. Thank you very much for watching. Take a look right underneath here in that description box. There are some links there to the channel. That way you can see the rest of my videos. I do both tutorials and recipe videos like this one. Also, if you look, there is a link there to my website, and that is S.A.Trotter.com. That's S.A.Trotter Arts. That's my company, and that's where Texas Cooking Today comes from. All right, so if you would take a look at that, you'll get the written recipes there and some other cool things. Thank you. Folks, have a good day and enjoy that lasagna. I sure will.